Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. One of the most important things we will be watching this winter will be the evolution of this map. It was released last Thursday. It's the latest drought monitor. We've seen expansive drought stretching across the western part of the United States into the plains, and pockets of drought that have extended into the Corn Belt, also in places in the southeast and in the northeast. Why we need to discuss this is because the change in this map throughout winter will be a good indicator as to what we could be expecting for the spring pattern. So I'm going to keep watching this, analyzing it not only in our Monday, Thursday videos, but also my Wednesday long range. Because when you look back over the last couple of months, we have seen degradation in the drought monitor. In other words, class change here toward the negative side of things across several regions here in the plains getting back into the western United States. There have been pockets that have seen improvement, but I'm mostly concerned about the pattern that got us here. You see, if we were to look at the way things would be to really eliminate drought in the West, I'm going to take you back to a time period. This would be October through early December of 2016. Now, what I want you to notice here is we're looking at the anomalous flow of the jet stream during that time period. And we saw deep troughs that kept setting up right here just off of the northwestern part of the United States. And it was just sending the moisture into the western United States, building up snowpack and setting us off on a pretty active pattern across the rest of the United States. But what have we had this year over the same time period? Watch this. It's almost the exact opposite. Can you see the flow now going in this direction over here? And that has eliminated the subtropical jet stream. But we want to ask ourselves is why and how long does this last? And does the pattern ever change in a way that will be more conducive to eliminating or shrinking that drought across the western half of the United States? Well, one of the things we have seen lately is because of that anomalous flow. Look at how warm it's been through the northern plains stretching up to a broad sector of Canada here. Our coldest air has been kept farther to the south compared to normal and over Greenland and Alaska. And if we think about what that's done to our snowfall, well, we can take a look at the near-term stuff first. Over the weekend, we did see quite a bit of heavy snow that spread from parts of Nebraska through Iowa, northern Illinois, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And then the second system yesterday bringing snow out of Colorado into Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. In fact, quite a bit of heavy snow in pockets there in Oklahoma as well. But what I want to do is I'm going to put this map in a bit broader context here by showing it to you with relation here to what we've accumulated so far this year compared to the 2008 to 2019 average. So we're looking here at snowfall departure in inches. And a couple of things I want to point out. Getting into the southern Cascades, the Sierra Nevada mountains, we are in major deficit. And pockets in the Central Rockies are showing up that way as well. That comes back to our discussion at the beginning of this video on the lack of a strong subtropical component of the jet stream. But up in North Dakota, for example, where we have a snowfall deficit, or around the Great Lakes, where we've had a real lack of major cold air blowing across those lakes to give us extensive lake effect snow, is really showing up in this particular map. So how much is going to change? Well, let's do an interesting kind of diagnosis of this. This is looking out all the way through the evening on Christmas. And it shows us the probability of grabbing an inch of snow between now and 7 p.m. or 6 p.m., on Christmas Day. Now, this is the probability of getting an inch. You can pause it and take a look at the colors if you'd like here. This is the probability of getting 3 inches. And what it shows us here is that the latest European ensemble runs are not favoring big snowstorms that cut through the southern Canadian prairie, cutting through the northern plains, or even into parts of the Midwest and the Corn Belt. What it seems to be favoring is both east and west coast storm systems. In fact, take a look at this map. This is the probability of getting a foot of snow between now and the evening on Christmas. And we do have a major system that's cutting through the northeast later this week that we've got to be talking about. But I am happy to see here the snowfall amounts we are expecting in the Sierra Nevada, also in the Cascades in the northern Rockies, regions we want to build up major early season snowpack that we can keep around for the remainder of the year. Well, the jet stream's open for business, and what I mean by that is we have multiple troughs. I've labeled 4 of them here with arrows that are all stacked up here in the North Pacific. They're orbiting around the tropospheric polar vortex, which is going to meander between the Hudson Bay and back over toward Alaska. An important change we have noticed in the Arctic is the development, that's that arrow farthest on the top of your screen here, a change in the Arctic oscillation indicating higher atmospheric pressure building there. And that could be critical for us to understand the late month and then early January temperature patterns across much of North America. But what I'd like to show you just very quickly in animation here is that the pattern is kind of lined up to give us multiple weather systems in a very active second half of the month of December. Here's the trough going into the mid-Atlantic today, spreading quite a bit of heavy rain and some snow on its north side. Here's the trough sweeping into the west that's going to make a big blizzard here for the northeast at the end of the week. And then you see the next one lined up and the next one. And I'm just going to play it for you. You see nothing here is blocking up the pattern, and it just keeps allowing these systems to cut through. That's all I wanted you to see out of this. We're going to keep seeing troughs sweeping through the United States here. So let's take a look at the near-term forecast, and I'm going to play this for you starting late last night where we saw the snow coming out of parts of Oklahoma into Arkansas and southern Missouri. Playing this forward, we'll pause it right here early this morning as the rain was then spreading out of parts of the Mid-South, getting through Kentucky, Tennessee, and then here into parts of Virginia and North Carolina. On the northern side of this, you can see through parts of West Virginia, spreading into Pennsylvania, New York, the first of 2 rounds of snow this week. So it's going to be a very soggy and cold day into this part of Virginia, getting up into, here into the northeast, with more scattered rainfall back in the Carolinas down to Florida here, working our way through mid-morning. That's out of here by the time we get into about 4 o'clock this afternoon East Coast time. So system number 1 is done and moving through quickly. We'll get a little bit of lake effect snow on the colder air that's on the back side of this, but our next system begins to take shape here once we get into Monday evening. So here we are, 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. Central Time Monday evening. We see scattered snow showers in through this part of Wyoming, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, and South Dakota. And as this moves forward into the overnight hours, we will see some light snow beginning to spread through mid-morning on Tuesday, right in through here, Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma. So this is the second round of snow in just a couple of days here for this section of the U.S. But as this system begins to pull itself together and the trough digs into the lower Mississippi River Valley, by the time we get into Tuesday evening, we're watching the beginnings here of a powerful East Coast cyclone. And I'm going to stop this right here at the end of the model run from the high-resolution NAM to show you the snow that'll be moving into the Ohio River Valley, the cold rain that'll come through Tennessee into northern Mississippi and Alabama, but right in through here, with the presence of this high-pressure cell setting up here over parts of Quebec, we will have some cold air damming along the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia and North Carolina. So on Wednesday, we're going to see this system spreading itself toward the north and east, and this will be our big nor'easter. But before it gets there, look at the threat we have for ice accumulation right in through here, looking out on Wednesday through Thursday morning. So high probability of getting some ice. So be very careful, folks, if you're watching my video here and you're in this part of the mid-Atlantic getting down into the Carolinas. From there, though, let's get over to the European model. We'll play to what we've seen so far. We're going to pause it right here on Wednesday morning. So there's the ice beginning to spread. And as we let this go forward, some snow here in parts of the eastern Corn Belt, but the big snowfall event will be where this low pressure system ends up by Thursday morning. We'll just pause it right there. So you saw the rain move through the southeast, and I want you to note the position of the low right here, just off the Jersey shore. Now, over the last 5 model runs, the European model has been extremely consistent with placing the low in this particular spot. It's also kept this big high pressure cell, which has gotten up to about 1036, a 1036 high here, very consistent as well, which gives me a lot of confidence to paint this corridor in through here as having the heaviest snowfall. We're going to take a look at those amounts in a few moments. But this system, one of the trickiest parts of forecasting the snow is that it's not lingering. It's going to move through. This is Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon, and evening. See how quickly it moves on out here? So we'll have to assess whether or not these snowfall amounts may be biased a bit too high based on the speed of the system. But there's plenty of liquid equivalent in this to be thinking about that could give us quite a bit of heavy snowfall. Meanwhile, I almost didn't want to miss it here, but let me just step you back. That next trough is already hitting here Wednesday night to Thursday morning into the northwest, where we could be bringing snow into northern California, the Klamath Mountains, getting down into the Sierra Nevada as well. So see it sweeping through there. This is Thursday morning. While the Midwest gets a bit of a break, in fact, between these two systems, look at the strong winds Thursday night into Friday we're going to see here in the central part of the United States as the next low pressure develops right here in through this corridor. So, with the high pressure coming in behind the nor'easter, southerly winds occupy the central part of the U.S., and we're going to get a big warm-up toward the end of the week here because of that. And this next system appears to be heading toward Hudson Bay. And as a result, you can see that the frontal boundary sweeps through here, but out ahead of it, some pretty warm conditions. And then I'll just keep this going because that front sweeps through and our next system comes into the northwest. And it seems to be the stacked up nature of all of these systems in the Pacific that's going to keep our pattern very active moving forward. So that just got you through this week. Let's take a bit of a closer look at some of the snowfall patterns. So in this map, we're looking at snow accumulation through Friday night. And of course, your eyes are drawn to the big snowfalls we're expecting here, getting up into parts of West Virginia, through Maryland, Pennsylvania, and parts of the Northeast. I'll show you that in more detail in a few moments. But not a lot going on right in through this corridor in through here. And here's the snow coming out of this system that's going to eventually get over here to the northeast. We could be picking up in some places 2 to 4 inches over the next couple of days. Meanwhile, back in the west, well, I'll show you a more detailed map of the snowfall in the west, but it's good to see good snowpack building up there. So multi-model analysis here. Upper left, European. Upper right, GFS. Lower left, Germany's ICON model. And lower right, that's the Canadian GEM model. Now, you can probably pretty quickly see the model that is the outlier here, and it's the GFS. In parts of New York, Boston, getting on the northern edge of the storm system, notice how it is much less aggressive with the snowfall totals. It's keeping the low farther to the south and kicking it out quicker, and therefore not allowing the snow to really build up to the north. But the other models are painting a corridor in through, and let's just focus on the European that stretches here from this part of West Virginia, Northern Virginia, right up through Massachusetts of very heavy snow. And multiple models here are suggesting that the ability to get a foot to maybe 2 feet of snow is in the works out of this system. All right, so we need to watch that carefully. What I'm concerned about is we're currently using a 10-to-1 snow ratio, and the movement of this system, it's going to move very quickly on out here. So can we get this amount of snow? Well, I have 2 answers for you there. The potential is yes, but does it really even matter? Because this is going to be big no matter what we end up getting through here. So that's your multi-model analysis. Out west, we could expect to get anywhere between 12 to 18 inches at the highest peaks of the Sierra Nevada. Very good news there. Same for the Klamath Mountains. And then look right here along this corridor on the Cascades, picking up good snow too. I like to see that this time of year. Total liquid equivalent through the next week. There are some places I want you to now see that are not going to be getting much precipitation. And that's right in through here and in this area as well. Places we've been talking about drought expanding as of late. And remember, this isn't much, and a lot of that's coming in the way of some light snow here early this week. On the flip side of that, the liquid equivalent stretching from Mississippi here up to the northeast. Well, in some places here, we're talking about 2 to 3 inches of liquid equivalent. So that's a lot of moisture in there that could be turned over to some snow. From there, let's go all the way out now to the 10-day pattern. And this is where the tropospheric polar vortex is now meandered back over toward the Aleutian Islands. So the flow of the jet stream is doing something like this, okay? And there's a trough that's situated right here in the midsection of the United States. Now we know with troughs, which this has been very well forecast by the European model, with a trough, we always watch downstream of it to have the most active weather. So as we work our way toward Christmas, that area I just kind of shaded in there, I'm expecting to see a pretty active pattern. But looking only at the week 2 total precipitation compared to normal, we can see that this quarter in through here is going to be wet. We're drier without that strong subtropical jet stream here into the western part of the United States. But to be honest, things are going to stay quite active on the other side of the Rocky Mountains here. I'm expecting to see this quarter be active for storm systems as we approach Christmas and then look at the days just beyond it. All right, that's what we're seeing here for week 2. In terms of the polar stratospheric vortex, so now we're going to go up to the stratosphere. It is regaining composure over the next 10 days and heading back here just to be on this side of Greenland. So whereas we saw a little bit of a disruption in those stratospheric winds, they're starting to regain at the end of the forecast here. And all that means is we're not seeing a substantial disruption in the polar vortex through the end of 2020 here. So we're going to have to wait later on into January and February to watch the polar vortex possibly be disrupted to really crank away at knocking our temperatures back. But you know what? Starting off on Monday today, it's pretty cool across much of the U.S. except for parts of the Carolinas to Florida here, out ahead of that first of 2 systems going toward the northeast. So compared to normal here, most locations are anywhere between 3 to 10 degrees cooler than average. Playing this forward, though, we're going to see quite a bit of change. Here's Tuesday, so our next system taking shape here. Plenty of cold air for that snow we talked about. And as we go forward from Tuesday into Wednesday, that's when the storm system begins to spread itself up the northeast. So you can see the risk in through here of the freezing rain on early Wednesday morning because the afternoon temperatures will barely crack the freezing mark. But as the first system spreads into the northeast on Thursday, there it is, with the return of warm southerly winds, look at the warm-up we have here for the northern plains getting into Thursday, and that lasts into Friday. Here we go. And then again into Saturday as well. So for this time of year, to be about 10 degrees above average puts these temperatures up here for highs near 40 in some places in the northern plains. And that carries on into our weekend. There's Sunday's temperatures compared to normal. Stretching this out into the day 5 through 10 pattern, we see that the coldest air is anchored here, from Canada up into parts of Alaska. And because of that, it's a bit more of a relaxed pattern going out here. This will take us all the way, day 10 gets all the way out to the 23rd. And we see warmer conditions during that time period being more prevalent in the northern plains in both the GFS and the European. Day 10 through 15, this is where things start to go back closer to normal. And we do see a shifting of that coldest air now moving here over central northern Canada. But we've expected to see that as we've now built in higher pressure over parts of the Arctic. From there, I want to take this discussion to the tropics. The MJO is right now in phase 5, and it's forecast to weekly move into phase 6 and possibly over into phase 7. Now, as it moves out of phase 5 into phase 6, we do notice that the pattern, this is phase 6 over here on the right, is very reminiscent of what we're expecting to see here in terms of our temperature patterns across North America, with warmer potential south and cooler conditions kept in Canada. Moving over to phase 7, though, we start to see that cooler air diving a bit farther to the south, only keeping the warmest weather over the southeast. And we just remember that as we go through winter, our coldest phases of the MJO are over here into phase 8, 1, and 2. So the big question is the MJO going to start to move? And that will a lot have to do with what's going on with La Nina. Now, our La Nina is making a big push in its trade winds right in this area currently. But on the back side of it here, over closer towards South America, the trade winds are no longer very strong compared to normal, and the ocean temperatures are starting to return back toward normal. And we're seeing, I think, the last big push of this La Nina before it starts to fade. It's seen best by looking at this right here. That's where the strongest trade winds are blowing across the Pacific, which is what we expect during La Nina. But behind it, we start to see some more normal trade winds, even westerly at times. So over the next 15 days, the best rising motion in the tropics will be here, where we're actually seeing quite a bit of tropical cyclone activity, and also over South America. And I want to talk to you about South America. Honing in on Mato Grosso, after the delay in the start of the monsoon, they've had two very notable dry time periods. One right here to begin November, and then this one here to finish November and begin December. Now, over the last week, look at these big spikes. That would indicate some heavier rainfall over the last week. Again, we're talking about Mato Grosso right here. Just for reference, in Mato Grosso, they grow the equivalent in terms of soybeans of an Illinois plus an Iowa soybean crop. From there, as we look over the next week, that area is going to be very dry, with wetter conditions farther to the south once you get here into southern Mato Grosso do Sul, Paraná, and Rio Grande do Sul. Plus, we're expecting scattered rain in Argentina's main growing area. But the deficits here are off by about 3 inches of rainfall. This is that time of year where central Brazil can get upwards of 4 inches of rain a week. And while it will be dry, look at the temperature anomalies. We're seeing a lot of mid-30s to upper 30s, lower 40s in terms of degrees Celsius across this area, meaning that our evaporative stress will be high during this time period. And this will be the third such time period where we're going to have some troubles here in this part of Brazil. To finish this up, we noticed that with the MJO going over toward phase 6, 7, and maybe beyond that we're going to bring this area wetter. It's going to be drier farther to the south in the week 2 forecast. And from some long-range analysis I did last week, there's a good chance that we keep this area near normal as we go into January, and possibly even wetter than normal once we get into February, which could make it very difficult to get this crop out. The question that remains, how much damage will be done by these 3 very notable dry time periods in November and December here? And in the longer range, will the fading La Nina favor drought development in Argentina? Big questions to ask and answer as we progress through the next several weeks here in our forecast videos. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.